welcome you this morning to the annual general meeting of Atomo Diagnostics. And my name is John Keefe. I have the privilege and honour of being the chair of Atomo Diagnostics, and I will chair today's meeting. We're delighted to be able to host those who have come in person. Thank you. And also, I'd like to welcome those shareholders who are joining us by way of our webcast. Now, those to vote or ask questions, we very much thank them for their participation. And as we do as well, we'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the people we meet. The Gadigal people of the Eora Nation is actually spanned by rivers. We have the Hawkesbury to the north and to the west, and of course we have the Georges River to the south. And we acknowledge those people, and we acknowledge all, and we pay our respect to elders past and those emerging as well. And celebrate the diversity of the Indigenous people, their cultures and connections to country Australia. And as a New Zealander, New Zealanders joining us, it's 10 o'clock, and the company has complied with the relevant requirements for convening today's meeting, and a quorum is present, and I formally open. I'm joined today by my fellow non-executive directors, Dr. Paul Cassian, Dr. Sherry Walker, and also our Executive Director, Managing Director and CEO, John Kelly. Today we also have our Company Secretary, Matthew Watkins, and we have Susie Elhu, who is our Financial Controller. Yes, sorry, there's Susie. Looking everywhere but at you, so thank you. Gareth Hugh, representing BDO. During the meeting, if you have on our financial. And we also have representation from the company's share register, boardroom and attendance as well. So you have the formal structure around BNP Paribas, around Atomo Diagnostics. In addition to that, we have Grant Hummel from HWLE, who's. The notice of today's meeting has been given in accordance with the company's constitution, and copies are available for you of that notice, as well as our constitution on our website, the share registry site, and you can also look on the ASX platform for announcements, the ASX Markets platform for announcements. Unless you have any objections, I will take the notice of meeting and explanatory statement as read. Right, the format of today's meeting follows the format of many AGMs, including our own. I will make a few comments to you, and then we'll have a presentation from John Kelly, our Managing Director, and that'll be a general update of the company, and provide a brief summary of the voting and meeting procedure. We'll then formally consider the business on today's agenda, and we'll take questions from you as our shareholders, and we've also had some questions submitted prior, so we'll address those as well. And after the formal business is considered, we'll conduct a poll on all resolutions that we have identified and shared with you. And once that poll is completed, the results will be tallied, and they will then be released on the ASX platform. I'm going to move to our address. Our agenda starts with me talking a little bit about our financial year to June 30, 2024, and our current financial performance for the year to date. I'll then invite John to make some more detailed comments about some of the raise. And I'll then ask you to consider several resolutions that we've put forward to you as our shareholders. The board values highly shareholder feedback and participation in our AGM. The board is particularly mindful of the resolution concerning remuneration that last year received a strike at our AGM. And reflecting shareholder feedback, we will see that this year's resolution of remuneration is materially different. And I'll spend time on this when we reach these resolutions. Your company, Atomo Diagnostics, continues to participate extensively in the adoption of rapid testing. It's a critical means of early infection detection. Advocacy for such testing is shared with the federal government of Australia and among public and private agencies globally. Locally, such support sees the federal government funding free distribution of Atomo's HIV tests through vending machines in various states across Australia, including New South Wales. We believe that decentralising testing serves to empower and scale. Individuals are empowered through having user-friendly devices that test for specific conditions with immediate results. Similarly, decentralized testing settings screen effectively and early. They serve to scale the health system's capacity to respond to community health needs. And of course, we all lived through that with rapid testing during the COVID pandemic. Throughout our last financial year and so far this year, we've seen the continuing adoption of rapid tests, both by consumers as well as professional users, so-called, what we say, professional tests and consumer tests, rapid testing. With our partner, one of our partners, we found in healthcare, based in the UK, our tests, Atomo's tests, are now on the shelves of Tesco, the supermarket, and Boots, the pharmacy chain. While through our direct sales, as well as our sales through our own marketing efforts in Australia, you can go into your local pharmacy and also through the federal funded scheme I mentioned, access our devices through vending machines. Moving to financials, our revenue comprises sales of finished products led by our HIV tests, we'll go through that in a little more detail, our self-tests, and for professional use. So that's one component. Those are our finished products. In parallel, we have what we call OEM plus contracts. OEM plus contracts see us sell our platform to scale, make use of our technologies by third parties across different tests. And these include Lumos, the Melbourne-based company, and their famous Febridex bacterial test, and in Europe, France, NG Biotech, who have a blood-based pregnancy test. Looking ahead, we announced a federal government grant for Atomo to support the development of the world's first rapid test for the detection of active syphilis. And that's in collaboration with the Burnet Institute. And those in our announcement a couple of weeks ago. We're also delighted with BARDA's announced support for Lumos's Pascal-based Febridex test. So, of course, Pascal is one of our leading platforms. And the funding from BARDA for Lumos to seek clear waiver support to allow widespread distribution in the US. And that follows, of course, a few years ago when they successfully secured 510K support for that test on our Pascal device. For those of you who are perhaps more recent Atomo shareholders, my warm welcome. What I'd like to do is just share and summarize briefly what we do in rapid diagnostics. Atomo develops, commercializes, and supplies finished rapid diagnostic tests and devices. We also partner with clinical partners to develop new tests and launch them into global markets. Our technology supports testing to detect infectious diseases, chronic health conditions, and consumer wellness. Atomo participates in 3 identified markets in developing and commercializing diagnostic devices. These markets comprise OEM plus devices and sexual health and wellness. Each of these markets involves Atomo's scale deployment of our patented technologies, often through partnering to allow us scale. Atomo's HIV test leads our work in infectious diseases demand, spans global health programs, and increasingly developed consumer markets. We extend across B2B sales and in our OEM business, and B2C through our partnered and direct sales. As an example, as I mentioned, we're delighted to have our HIV self-test supplied through Tesco supermarkets and Boots pharmacies in the UK. And in global health, we have a long-standing and continuing relationship with Viatris. Viatris is one of the largest producers of generic retrovirals in the world. They see the use of the Atomo device as part of their test and treat approach to their customers. The growing in-house number of country approvals for the sale of HIV tests, especially in developing countries, continues. As partners during the year, we supplied Atomo platform devices under OEM Plus to NG Biotech, Access Biotech, and Lumos Diagnostics. Those sales support their proprietary clinical rapid diagnostic tests. Turning to our financial management. You are aware of Atomo's change in year-on-year revenues and sales mix, and these encouragingly reflect the overall market demand for products, particularly following the pandemic passing. Our corresponding ramp-up is in the production and delivery of our patented products rather than the distribution of others' products. The board and its senior executives exercise appropriate care in financial management, judicious regard for spending. The latter, spending, is very much focused on supporting the promotion and delivery of existing Atomo products. We continue to work with the company to ensure efficiency and benefit from reduced operating costs, including reduced board costs. And John will talk through these changes, and I'm happy to answer questions on financial matters as well. So to this end, the board very much acknowledges the considerable efforts across the executive team and our people within Atomo, within the wider workplace from here to South Africa, to seek efficiency in our activities. And I'm pleased to report that these efficiency exercises are underway, and concurrently, we continue to see strong, positive employee engagement through the surveys that we run. So on behalf of Atomo's board and management, we gratefully acknowledge the tireless efforts of those who provide services and advice to Atomo. Amongst them, George Sidis and Richard Sokolov at IDE, Matthew Watkins and Kiera Ferraro, who provide company services, and through Vista Australia, Gareth Few and Andrea BDO and Grant Hummel. This board of directors, joined with me on the line today, Deborah Neff, Dr. Paul Cassian, Dr. Sherry Walker, John and me. Deborah chairs our People, Culture and Remuneration Committee, and Paul chairs Audit and Risk. These are pillars of our corporate governance, and I sit on both of those committees. In keeping with Atomo's board process, you will shortly be asked to consider Deborah for re-election to the board. Along with fellow directors and executives, I value Deborah's contribution greatly, and I strongly endorse her re-election. So in closing, I share the board's strong recognition of the Atomo team's efforts and their commitment to developing and implementing the company's strategy while making sense of and realizing new opportunities. The decentralization of health services, diagnostics and care continues to evolve. The adoption of rapid diagnostics has changed users' behaviors and expectations by location, speed to results, and timelier prescription. That is, better health earlier. These changes align with Atomo's proven competencies and focus on developing tests addressing unmet consumer needs. Atomo's competitive positioning draws from our product and commercialization expertise. We are excited about the year ahead and those beyond. I welcome John to talk to you about what we are up to in further detail. I want to warmly thank you for your patient, considered and enthusiastic support, questions and interest in Atomo. And with that, I'll now invite John to take us through the most recent results and activities.
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone here today in person and online to join us. I wanted to step through a presentation that sets out, I think, our progress over the year, as well as a discussion around our focus for the coming period. Just to recap, in terms of who we are and what we do, we're an Australian headquartered international business with operations overseas, particularly our HIV self-test manufacturing facility in South Africa, and we develop, supply innovative rapid finished tests to market, as well as a range of technologies for the market that focus around reliability and usability in the field, which is increasingly important in a decentralized healthcare market. Our solutions have been increasingly recognized as delivering best-in-class usability and performance in that field, and that's been recognized not just in independent studies, but also through self-test approvals in Tier 1 jurisdictions for Class 4 IVD products. That usability supports the commercial opportunities for the business moving forward, and we're very encouraged by opportunities over the medium term and beyond in the US market in particular. What do we do as a business? We're really focused on two main areas of revenue generation. One is the delivery to market of finished products where we are the listed manufacturer, and our strategic focus in the first instance is in sexual health. We have a very well adopted and approved HIV self-test, and we're now in the process of moving forward with a rapid syphilis test that supports both professional and self-test applications. And they're very nicely aligned in the market because the users of both of those tests have a significant overlap in terms of cohorts. Outside of sexual health, we have an ongoing interest in women's health, in particular blood pregnancy and anemia. Anemia being very closely linked with female health and pregnancy in particular. And we work strategically with NG Biotech to ensure that blood product is delivered globally. And we're also looking at opportunities to help commercialization in key markets. Outside of the finished products business, we have an interest in the wider deployment of our technologies to market. And we partner with companies, as John mentioned, NG Biotech and Lumos being two, to support their desire to deliver a better performing, more usable product in the market. And we've seen success through those supply channels. We're also looking at new opportunities and new product solutions based around our core functionality in areas of blood and swab testing, as well as blood delivery more broadly. In terms of last year's financial performance, our revenue was up 61% year on year. If we strip out the remnants of COVID business, the core business itself was up 90% in revenue. And that, I think, speaks to a re-emergence of blood testing post-COVID, where during the COVID period, there was a retraction of non-COVID testing and non-COVID healthcare related activities more broadly. We're now starting to see a re-emergence of business pre-COVID levels, and we're starting to push now into areas, particularly as John mentioned, in consumer health, as well as in the engagement with public health that are more supportive of at-home testing. And I think that's a direct relation to changes in attitudes and policy post-COVID. We are also focused on the reduction of our business costs, and we've delivered a fairly significant reduction in OPEX over the period, and that reflects, I think, an ongoing program. We did see a reduction in OPEX for FY23 relative to 22, and we expect to see continued focus on that as we move forward. If we look at that in a sort of graphical format, we'll see that the revenues now for the business outside of COVID, the core revenues are starting to step up as we move away from COVID and start to see growth in market penetration. And we're also starting to see a continued focus on OPEX showing returns in reduced business costs. And obviously that's a trend we want to see continue. It means that we're tracking more aggressively towards break even with increasing revenues and reducing cost base. And I think that's a key focus of the business moving forward, is to continue those two trajectories. Driving the growth of the business, the long-term opportunity really is a transformative level of usability that our technology delivers. We've had independent studies done to help with the validation of the platform and the marketability of our products, but that's also been replicated on several dossiers in clinical trials and usability for regulators. What we see is a greater than 90% reduction in blood-related errors compared to multi-component kits. We have delivered a complete reduction in errors related to the buffer reagent delivery, which is another source of error, and that's been delivered through automatic delivery that's push button activated in Pascal. And in simplifying the steps, we not only remove errors and improve reliability, but we make the test more intuitive to use and quicker to use. And that results in a much quicker procedure time, which is important in point of care settings, as well as an overwhelming user preference. And it's that overwhelming user preference that I think is the most powerful metric for us to take into an increasingly consumer-focused market. What that means in terms of actual solutions is I believe, a really well-delivered, intuitive, easy-to-use device with less steps and, more importantly, less room for error when doing those steps. So we have a very intuitive system that's difficult to do incorrectly. It's simple, it's button activated, and it removes the need for user dexterity, and it removes the need for users to second guess whether they've done the procedure correctly. And that inherent reliability leads to inherently improved levels of performance, but also inherently improved levels of user satisfaction. And I think that's really what we're selling here. We're selling user satisfaction and reliability in the market. The same development ethos, capabilities, and core IP have been used to develop a similar solution targeting swab testing. And our CEO, Chandra Sukumar, is at Medica this week with both the swab device and the Pascal and Elion devices, as well as some early prototypes for other solutions that we'll talk to market about moving forward. We've had a really good reception, and we're very excited about the opportunities for swab testing and blood testing over the longer term. We're also mindful of the need to be compatible with digital traceability in the US market, in the CLIA-waived market in particular. Small desktop readers are typically commonly used to provide not only quantitation of results, but traceability for reimbursement. We have solutions that are compatible with those reader systems, and we're working with a number of leading reader development companies to make sure that they can offer readers that are Atomo compatible. We also see long-term opportunities for at-home testing with app support. The app not only delivers better usability, but delivers a better level of precision in reading the line, and also can be used to read line intensity, which then allows you to look at quantitation in the home. And that opens up a range of applications longer term where monitoring levels are important rather than just yes/no tests. So things like PSA, testosterone, vitamin D, thyroid, and we have some IP around how we do that we're excited about, and that's kind of on our longer term horizon for product expansion. But today we have products registered in a number of markets through either the Atomo direct to market HIV business or through our OEM partners. And that includes approval across all tier 1 jurisdictions. In the US, 510K approval was secured last year. Lumos are now pushing actively for a CLIA waiver on the platform. We're the only approved HIV self-test in Australia. We've got CE mark across Atomo products, Lumos products, and NG Biotech products in Europe, both professional use and self-test, as well as being pre-qualified in developing markets and registered in more than 30 countries. So we're seeing an expanding footprint of registrations that we can now leverage off as a business for other applications. And I think that gives us a really good infrastructure to build upon. And all of that is underpinned by what we believe to be a very robust proprietary IP position, not just in terms of formal utility patents that are granted in global markets, but also 10 years of detailed R&D development around not just how the products work, but how the products are manufactured. And we have a number of proprietary processes that are very difficult to replicate. And that's notwithstanding our IP position around that. So that underpins the value of the business. We've not only got really best-in-class solutions, but we've got a robust ability to protect that IP and therefore enter into arrangements that reflect that in terms of joint ventures and licensing arrangements moving forward. I'll talk a little bit about some of the core product drivers for us. Obviously, HIV self-test has been the majority of the revenues for HIV self-testing have more than doubled for us over the year. And not only have they doubled, but margins have improved. And that reflects the fact that we're selling more tests in Europe, more tests in Australia, where we get higher pricing and better margins and less reliance on global health volume, where we see less attractive margins. A lot of that's been driven by the federal government's adoption of HIV self-testing in public policy. Up until May this year, self-testing was not supported by government in a procurement sense, and all of their procurement went into laboratory and clinic testing. There's now an acknowledgement that self-tests reach people that don't test through facilities, and we've been very successful in working with civil society to put in place a number of pilots that now have been adopted and scaled by federal government. And that's been the culmination of several years' worth of hard work by Atomo and others to really prove the utility and the benefits of self-testing in the community. What we now have is a government that's aligned to that and supporting that. And we announced earlier this month an order for $440,000 worth of HIV tests for the NAPWA at-home mail-out programme, and that is directly funded from federal government. We've also seen a significant rollout of vending machines through New South Wales Ministry of Health. The target there is to put 70 machines into New South Wales over the next period. I believe there's already 30 up and running. As John mentioned, we've been successful in getting into leading retail channels in the UK, Tesco supermarkets and Boots pharmacies, as well as a large pharmacy chain in Germany. And we're in hundreds of pharmacies now here in Australia. Boots the Chemist has ranged us as a core product, which means it's a push from head office into all of the branches, and we're starting to see returns from that. And we have brought on 141 new pharmacies over the period in Australia. We've worked hard to expand the registrations for products. We got registrations in Colombia, Switzerland, and most recently a variant for Eastern Europe. And we saw our first order for, I believe, 20-something thousand into that East European market as a starting point for launch. So we are making good progress with HIV, and we see that continuing over the medium term. And more importantly, we're making progress in markets where they pay for the product at a price premium that gives us a good margin. Moving beyond that, the future for HIV self-testing, I think that the key point here is that self-testing is the largest growing segment of the HIV market as governments adopt HIV policy because it's effective and it's targeted and it's low cost relative to running a facilities-based approach, and also because consumers are more proactive in managing their health and taking more responsibility through pharmacy retail channels. So we expect to see that demand for HIV self-testing continue to grow, and we're very focused on making sure that our test remains a leader in that channel. We're well advanced in the planning for a launch into New Zealand after Christmas, and we'll be excited to announce that when it finalises. We are supporting the national scale-up of the Samesh vending machine programme that is also federally funded. That was announced in the May budget. We've been working with them to support that. The delay in seeing volume on our side has been really related to the need to actually manufacture and install the vending machines. We understand those machines have started to get installed this month. The installation will be complete by February, and we'll start to see significant orders coming through that channel in quarter3 and beyond. We're actively looking at a partnership opportunity to put a 4th-gen HIV test onto Pascal. 4th-gen measures P24 antigen, which allows us to compete with earlier detection tests in clinics and labs. At the moment, that market is owned not exclusively, but predominantly by Alere with their Determined test, now Abbott. And we believe the usability of Pascal far exceeds the usability of that product, and we're very excited about the opportunities to move into professional testing and sits alongside self-test. Although the self-test market is growing more rapidly than other segments, the professional market today, and for a number of years, still represents the bulk of the business. And I think getting a product into that channel, given our expertise, given our track record in self-testing, is eminently doable. We're also looking to lobby here in Australia for the adoption of self-testing as a viable method for testing and confirming negative status for people on PrEP. In Australia, there are 68,000 people on PrEP. They have to test negative for HIV 4 times a year to stay on PrEP. They currently have to go into a clinic. That's a burden on them every 12 weeks to go in and get that done. And the attendance at clinic has been established as one of the reasons why people don't stay on PrEP. So there is a compliance challenge with PrEP. In the US, there are studies showing the ability to do that at home through a telehealth consult. And we believe that that's attractive to users. Certainly the feedback we've got from various partners like ACON and NAPWA suggests that that's a very attractive offering to be able to provide. If we even got one of the 4 tests each year at home, that would be 68,000 tests. That more than doubles our market here in Australia immediately. So we do think there's significant opportunities for growth in the HIV home test market. If we move on to syphilis, you will be, I suspect, aware that we recently secured a Australian government CRCP grant for $2.44 million worth of non-dilutive funding and that funding is to deliver a complete product dossier to support regulatory submission for the world's first active syphilis rapid test. At the moment, active syphilis is only measured and detected and confirmed through laboratory testing that's both expensive and timely to deliver results. Antibody tests are on the market currently. They detect syphilis, but they will also be reactive for prior infections. So that means that if you've had syphilis previously, those tests are not effective at all. And they're actually recommended not to be used with people who are at risk of having previously had syphilis. So this test is not only novel in terms of its usability on our platform, but it's also delivering to market a novel patented assay that was developed by the Burnet Institute in Melbourne. And we're working with them to put together now a detailed development program, and we're also looking to close out commercial arrangements with them to support the commercialization of that test post the completion of development. I think that product offers significant opportunities in the market. We're very excited about it because it has a clear professional use screening application in public health. It also has a self-test application in public health for at-home screening, similar to the programs we're seeing for HIV. And it's also an application that our partners in pharmacy retail have suggested sits very nicely beside HIV on the shelf. So for all those reasons, it is of significant commercial interest to us. And we know that syphilis rates in Australia have tripled in the last 10 years. In other countries, typically even more. And 7 million new cases a year. So in some ways, it's a bigger problem caseload-wise than HIV moving forward. We'll be announcing more on that as we roll forward, but obviously that grant is a very good start to the commercialization of this product because now the development is fully funded by government, and that gives us the capital needed to deliver this product to market. If we conclude with a bit of a look at where we're focused now in terms of the business moving forward, obviously one of our core goals is to continue to reduce costs within the business and at the same time grow the existing revenue base of the business. And the heavy lifting, at least over the near term, is HIV self-testing. We're going to continue to expand pharmacy retail in Australia and launch into New Zealand. We will continue to push for expanded public health engagement and procurement, particularly with a focus on the opportunities to support PrEP. We will continue to launch in new territories where we aren't seeing business. So that would be working with existing partners to push into territories where they're not active, as well as taking over territories where they're not active that we think we can do better through another partner or possibly direct. So we're very focused on making sure that the HIV self-test we have on the market becomes the market leader in developing markets in particular where we can get good margin. Outside of HIV, we're looking at expanding into syphilis, and that sits very nicely within a sexual wellness portfolio. And we have already, and Burnet have already received inbound inquiries around parties interested in clinical trials around that product, which I think speaks to the clinical need and the uniqueness of what we're hoping to bring to market. We continue to work with NG Biotech to see how we can move forward with the blood pregnancy test, both in the Australian market as well as opportunities to commercialize it through partners in the US. We note that NG Biotech have had success through their recent partnership with Toa Pharmaceutical in Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And we're interested to see how that channel may support other tests, in particular iron deficiency, which sits very nicely alongside pregnancy in a women's health category. And longer term, as I mentioned, we see an enormous opportunity in wellness, particularly at-home monitoring of wellness, vitamin D, prostate health, testosterone, thyroid. There's a long list of biomarkers that will increasingly become important to people as they manage their health. And we think our Pascal device, coupled with a reliable app, is the type of product that has longevity in that market. Outside of finished products, obviously, we continue to focus on expanding OEM business. We are supportive of Lumos's efforts to move towards CLIA waiver for their Febridex product in the US. Not only does that increase the market size for Febridex and by default Pascal, which supports Febridex, but opens up a pathway for reduced barriers and less risk for other customers that want to get onto Pascal in the market. We're starting to also complete some development work on new, excuse me, some new potential solutions that repurpose some of Atomo's IP and know-how. And we'll hopefully in the coming weeks and months be able to disclose a bit more to market on those products and some of the commercial opportunities that relate to those. I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to thank you for your continued support of the business.